the notice of the meeting was provided to Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and promptly posted on the municipal public bulletin board. Municipal clerk, informing the public of time, place, and place of the visit of the Green Law, chapter 231, PL 1975. Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure at this
May
time.
23rd.
At this time, it's my pleasure to suspend the regular order of business. So Carol Carney, liaison for the Chief Executive ACC, to present this meeting with the scholarship.
We brought the big check this time.
Where's the big scissors?
Getting very
No
professional.
big scissors.
Okay.
That's nice. This is the first big check given out.
This is our
First and
first time.
Yeah.
So let me just give a little context to this. The Greater Westfield Area Chamber of Commerce 3 years ago decided to form a 501c3 charity foundation to give out scholarships in the 5 towns that we represent, which is Garwood, Fanwood, Mountainside, Scotch Plains, and Westfield. And we also give grants to nonprofit organizations. So by raising money, we're able, this year, we'll bring the total between last year and this year to $7,000 in scholarship. So we have, Al's going to take a picture. Thank you.
And this is the first time for a magnet school, so
Yes.
we're happy to do it.
And
here's the real
this is
check.
the real check, okay? We have an award tomorrow night in Westfield. We have 2 scholarships in Westfield at the Westfield Award Night, and then next week we have another award for a Garwood student, which will be given out at the school in the school in Clark. Yeah, at AOJ. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. for giving me
Our
the
pleasure.
opportunity.
Thank you for coming. Well done. Okay, moving on, our tax assessor, Ann Switzer, to report on reevaluation.
Well, yeah, it's going to sit next to you.
Is that a good chair?
Yeah, I think we got rid of the broken chairs.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Hello, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So everyone's aware we were ordered on May 2nd to do a revaluation to go into effect for 2020. And first order of business in that is getting tax maps approved by the state. So that is our. You might need a microphone.
Can you give her the microphone?
It's a little tough for us to hear now. Okay, sorry. Okay, we were ordered by the Union County Board of Taxation to do a revaluation effective for 2020. And we have a list of accomplishments we need to do, and the first being tax maps to be approved. Very good.
If I may, we talked about tax maps, and I asked where should they be generated from?
An engineering firm would.
Okay.
You would prepare a specification, a proposal for an engineering firm to do that, or well, they come from Mr. Goriello, and we would just have to update them, not start from ground zero.
Mr. Gore, I have a question for you. I know this is a point of contention, but back a year or so ago, I got so-called tax maps from the county. Are they inappropriate for what we're trying to do?
They're not tax maps.
They're usually GIS maps,
Yeah.
they're tax maps. They have a lot of tax map information on them, but whether or not it's accurate or not accurate.
They're not complete in the county.
You've seen them?
Yeah, I've seen them, we do them on our system.
Plus, they don't have the right information on it. They have people's names and address, which is a constantly changing thing. It shouldn't, a tax map doesn't have an owner's name on it, and it doesn't give you the dimensions of the lot. There's a lot of information missing on there. It's just, it's good to know plot, the town lives there, but it's an ever-changing situation.
Yeah, I use the GIS map, so I mean, it's pretty much for seeing, you know, the size of the lots, and it's got the outline of the lots, but it doesn't have all the information.
Thank you.
Here, if I may. First, I want to thank Ann, because as soon as I heard the news, I called her up at 4:25, and I caught her. And so she was able to update me, but I had shared a lot of that information at the last council meeting about how the first step is tax maps, and then how right now, since Ann works in Westfield as well, and they've been ordered to complete by 2019, she has a better idea of cost. So we're still thinking for the revaluation piece, about $125,000.
Roughly about that.
Roughly.
Yeah, not really sure, but.
Of course, but, and then plus any additional money for tax maps, which could be in the tens of thousands, seemingly. So, that's on the horizon, and I know you walked me through the process, but, and I shared that last council meeting, but I know we have some new people in the audience tonight that we didn't have last time, so would you mind speaking to that? So next year, the first step would be to get our tax maps updated by putting out the RFP, getting an engineering firm to conduct them.
Can I just pause you for a
Sure.
second? Mr. Burriello created those maps. He has them, and you just have to update them rather than you starting over and paying someone to start over. He is in a position to provide that.
Okay.
But as far as next year, I'm not sure about that. Can he be done this year, or is that too soon?
It can be started this year. It's a very lengthy process to get the tax maps approved by the state. It takes
Not
at least.
really, I mean, I know that takes longer,
Right.
him to finish the product. He
Right.
could finish the product.
He could finish the product and they could submit it to the state, and then the state will send back what they need revised.
Okay.
And that can go
I
back
just
and
want
forth
to put it out
throughout the
there,
year,
rather than
so.
doing an RFP and getting a new engineering firm
Okay.
that's not familiar with Garwood, you have this guy with 40 years' experience
Right.
in Garwood.
So Mr. Boreal could take it from start to finish, send it to the state, and then
Well,
see
I
if
would
we
work
need to
with
make
him
any
sending it
changes.
to the state, he just has to produce the product, I would send it to the state.
Okay.
Do we know how long it's good for, before it expires?
It has to be approved, I believe, 2 years prior to the reval.
2 years
Yeah,
prior?
I believe that.
And then the next step, once the tax maps are up to date, compliant, after that, there would be an RFP for a revaluation firm, right, to come in. And then could you talk a little bit to that process? Because I think that's the element of this that is, of course, scariest to residents, because that's where we're talking about every home getting inspected.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So if you could
RFPing
speak
and
out.
having a contract and getting the firm in is different than what we would be talking about with the public, about them coming to the homes and inspecting the properties.
Mhm.
So they would be doing public meetings, letting them know as much as possible in all different meetings of what neighborhoods they would be in, when, you know, when to expect them, make appointments if people aren't home during the day, things like that. They'd be wearing identification and, you know,
Mhm.
everybody can be rest assured that it would be done, you know,
So-
very professionally and.
Thank you, and I'm appreciative of the public meetings, certainly that the firm would hold to help the public understand such a daunting process.
Right.
But also, would they be responsible for distributing any literature informing the public? Especially one of my concerns, I'm glad you mentioned, of course, they wear identification, but we know that that issue is happening around this town and other towns where people are coming, knocking on the door, asking for money, just claiming to be with the utility company or what have you, and they're not. So they'll be educating the public with literature about that?
Correct.
I just want to say, I asked Mr. Borrello to submit me a proposal for an estimate of hours to revise these tax maps. Would that be acceptable to you all, rather than writing an RFP and just tell me how many hours he gets involved? We know his hourly rate. So you can get an idea of how much it's going to cost. Is that okay? So he's going to submit that, so we can get
Yes,
started.
that's a great first
Okay.
step.
All right,
Sooner the better.
okay. So he's going to let me know what he thinks, how many hours are involved.
That's all.
And that's all I have, but if anybody else has
Any
questions.
other questions of Ann this evening?
How long will it take to get the whole town done?
A town this size, it's hard to say. It shouldn't take too long. You know, definitely under a year,
Okay.
6 months.
Anyone else? And thank you very much for coming. Mr. Boreal.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, how are you?
Fine, yourself?
Good, I'm doing good.
Good to see you.
Good to see everybody here, too.
How you feeling? Thanks, Don.
Feeling good?
Good.
Yeah. I'd say back to normal almost. And I was normal, so.
That's a questionable thing sometimes. You're right.
My turn?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Just two things. We're working on the projects, the Municipal Aid 15 projects from the DOT, it's 3rd, Myrtle and Willow. The drainage is all complete on those 3 streets. The curbing will be completed on 3rd Avenue probably tomorrow, give or take the weather, maybe a little bit of Thursday. We'll go over to Myrtle. We probably have only 2 days worth of concrete work over there. And then we will do Willow. The same contractor has the contract for Municipal Aid 16. He's prepared to continue right on with our projects, so we should be able to start both West and 3rd right after we finish these projects, maybe during the process, because at this point, since he's got both projects, we may be able to hold up paving 3rd Avenue until after school is closed, which I think the school would be happy with. So what we may do is just do all the concrete work, and by that time, we should be prepared to mill all the streets and pave all the streets like within a week. So I'm looking at all these projects should be finished by either the 1st of July or maybe the first couple of weeks into July, depending on the weather.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Boreal?
Oh, and we do have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow on that, the new projects, so that we're just moving along with that, because we need that before we can proceed.
Hi, Don. I'm glad to see you feeling better. The paving, milling on Locust, I know that they had come, I talked to a resident who lives over there, they had come and filled some of the, and taken care of some of the problems, but I don't know if they've come and done the permanent milling over there. Do you know?
Yes,
Any date on that?
You know, that was done by 2 different utility companies. Fortunately for the borough, gas main was on the south side, north side, and the water main's on the south side. So the patchwork that's all done on the south side is all the gas company patchwork. The water company will be coming in, milling that half of the road, so by the time we're finished, the road will be paved completely from Center Street to the end.
Any idea on timing on that, or?
They were looking for a pre-construction meeting last week with the contractor. It got rained out, so I'm not so sure what the schedule is, but I would think it's the next couple of weeks it should be done. And I could check with Scott Schreiber on that and see what his schedule is.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
You know, I forgot to mention before we started meeting that you saw my email with 2 executive sessions.
Yes,
One,
ma'am.
the first one is going to happen right after Mr. Renaud's report.
When are we gonna have the first one?
Sorry?
When?
Right after Mr. Renaud's report, I have a resolution ready.
Very good, thank you. Okay, Mr. Ahmad, report from this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of what I have is an executive session tonight. The only thing that I have that's not is we did the ordinance as requested. It's on for introduction tonight that changes the fencing requirements on corner lots to a 6-foot limit and removes the openness requirement. And that's, you have that on for introduction.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Ahmad right now? Hearing none, Ms. Ariano?
Resolution 17113A, closed session resolution authorizing executive session for the purpose of discussing contract negotiations relating to the selection of planning services for South Avenue redevelopment Phase 2 project and matters of attorney-client privilege relating to and above and in accordance with NJSA 10-4 closed session meeting open to the public, exclusion of public subjects of matter. Whereas it is necessary for the mayor and council of the borough of Berwick to conduct an executive session closed to the public in order to discuss the above listed matters. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the borough of Berwick hereby moves to go into executive session in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act for the purpose of discussing the subject stated above, and be it further resolved that the matters discussed in and the minutes of the closed session shall be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality no longer exists.
Do you have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Second?
Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilman Blumenstock,
Aye.
Councilman Lucero,
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro,
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli, Councilman Sarno,
Aye.
and Council President Fiscal.
Aye.
Okay.
No action, right?
Well, yes, but after, yeah, we're
Regular
not doing
consent.
this now, so we will take action.
We will.
Well, you will sign.
Everyone.
You should be pending control.
Yep, it's your turn.
Thank you. Okay, we shall resume our business. Ms. Ariana, do you have anything for this evening?
Yes, I do. So I sent you an email yesterday that you got awarded the 2017 infrastructure grant that we applied for.
55,000?
Right. So that's 10,000 less than you got last year. You know how much of Center Street you did last year? You did from Willow to Spruce, I think? Anybody? About around there, right? So you go from Spruce, maybe a little bit less, because you're gonna be 20 grand less in the project, between 10 from them and 10 from you. I have a letter of award asking you to sign the contract, me and the mayor. I have a resolution prepared to authorize that, but you have to tell me if that's what you want to do. And then you have to bond for the difference. So I prepare a bond ordinance, and I told you all that
Yeah.
in whatever I told you, email, memo, whatever. So you just gotta tell me what you want to do.
And we had a bond ordinance for it last year, so that's no different. I mean, I personally would rather not have to see a contractor come out one time per year for the next 5 years just to get Center Street done, so I'll make that motion.
You don't want to do it?
No, I do want to do this. I'm
Okay.
saying if we made it even smaller, you'll just
Oh,
Exacerbate
yeah, I mean, if you
the-
make it smaller, then then it's not,
Oh,
it doesn't net out to be,
Is it gonna finish it up?
no.
No.
Well, actually, that kind of brings me to a question for everybody. I'd like to see maybe the business district get done. If we have less money than last year, I don't know how much that would be, because that's an
I
area
think-
that needs to be finished up.
There's a reason why you, yeah. So Mr. Guriello said that that wouldn't be a good idea until the Russo's developed, because they're gonna wreck up everything.
Right.
So he said that would not be smart to do that area now. That's why we forgo it last year and started at Willow.
I thought it was because of the intersection with the traffic.
The whole thing, everything, there's gonna be trucks coming through and, wrecking up everything, and, I mean, obviously it's up to you, but, that's what he was.
I know, it's in very bad repair,
Yeah.
worse than the rest of the issues, but, yeah, I mean, I see.
You guys get
points that if
specific
there's
out
trucks
exactly
coming
what
in-
part you want to do, because they just gotta tell me that you want to do it, and that you want to, that I should bear bond for
Do
it.
we want to do it, council?
I did ask Mr. Guriello, he's retiring, but his firm is still out, construction
Councilman
firm,
Petrozelli, do you want to do that?
they'll handle it.
Go forward with the project?
I would like to go forward with the project, but what are we going to be doing? Like, what's the?
Well, I think Ms. Ariana said that we can decide that
You
afterwards.
can decide it now or
Right.
after, but I just want to say, Mr. Guriello, I talked to him, because, he's retiring, but he's still a consulting firm. He said he'll handle it, like he did last year. So he's got everything ready to go, so it won't be, we have to finish it this year. That's the grant requirement.
How many blocks will it be?
I don't know, I mean, like I said, last year we did Willow to Spruce, right? Isn't that what, or the Locust, was it the Locust?
No.
All right. So that was $130,000 to do that many blocks. It's just milling and paving. Not curbing, not sidewalks, nothing.
Right.
So 20,000 less. So maybe, I don't know, I'm not a engineer, but you can't stop in the middle of the block, so I guess 3 blocks last
Is
year.
it possible that they would give us more money next year?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know
a
if
good
I have, right?
probability. Right,
All right.
you're just gonna keep
Well,
matching.
I have where you're going with this because I I don't think the damage is really going to be that as extensive. I don't believe it would be. I'd like to see a nice blue line right in the middle of it, and I'd like to see it nice and
You know,
big.
you can't do the blue lines, DOT said
You want to do that?
you
You
can't do
can.
the
Councilman.
I mean, if
You
Don's
can.
Go
here-
against the
We're
federal.
getting off focus here, guys.
If Don is here at the next meeting, I'd like to.
I don't
see
think,
what-
I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Well,
Could we get it,
can I email him and ask him
Sure.
what his thoughts
Yeah.
are on it? and
Absolutely.
Respond to everybody?
Yeah, you don't have to really.
right, tonight's really about the financing.
Yeah.
Are we
Right.
willing to
Decide
make
if you're
up the
gonna move
difference of
forward.
$20,000?
Yeah.
And that's all the same, no matter where you decide to pay, so I'll try to make sure he's here at the next meeting. Yes, please email him, yes, or call him, or text him, or whatever.
I'd rather email him and then he can respond to the whole council.
We don't wanna do that.
No,
Just let him
no
respond
reply
to
at
you.
all. We don't do that.
And then you can send it to Ms. Ariema, she can get it to the whole council.
Yeah, that'll work better.
Okay.
Okay, so then you can figure that out.
As far as the
Are
funding,
you, yes, for the financing?
I'm okay for the funding, I just would like to see that.
This side of the dais, as they say.
Yes.
Sarah, please prepare the paperwork.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, me, I'm sorry, no.
That's okay. Any unfinished business?
Well, actually, I have a question for Ms.
Oh,
Ariema.
go right ahead,
Sorry.
sorry.
Did we receive the communication, there was a resident here last week from the Board of Ed, said he was going to send over the letter. Did we receive that communication?
I did not receive any communication from the Board of Education.
Okay.
so as far as that goes, because I know when that statement was read at the last council meeting, Mayor, I specifically asked you to find out if that was being said on the behalf of the Board of Education, and the answer was yes. And so I just want to say, I know as a member of an elected governing body, I can't go somewhere and speak on behalf of this entire council unless this entire council asks me to do that. And so I know that the same is true with the Board of Education, and certainly we can't talk behind the scenes because that's breaking the Sunshine Law. So as far as that goes, I'm uncomfortable with that. I hope that that type of practice doesn't continue. I have to say, last night, and I know the mayor will mention it later, but we had a small committee of the council, including the mayor, meet with the small committee of the Board of Education last night, and it was very positive, very productive, and I'm very happy to sit down with the Board of Education. You know, we're on the same team here. We all care about the residents of Garwood and the children of Garwood, so we should be working together. And I think in the past, we've really done that. We have shared services together, all of that can continue. But I really hope the negativity and, quite honestly, nonsense about anything to do with the fact that, you know, special education children may be in a certain location in the town and that could cost up to $400,000. I feel as though, you know, as a proud Garwood resident and an educator, I feel as though, you know, we should be a town that wants to have families here and want to educate our children, and if there are special needs, then we educate them too. They have a target on their back already. They don't need another one by putting a dollar figure there to make a point. Dollar figures are dollar figures. They get talked about at budget time, absolutely. But I don't think we should be, quite honestly, pointing out some of the most vulnerable people in our society in that way. So again, I do look forward to a very positive working relationship with the Board of Education on redevelopment, but again, I really hope the negativity stops and any statements by individual members, if they're not truly from a certain governing body, whether it's this one or that one, that type of practice stops. So, thanks
May I?
for just letting me say that.
I have no clue what you're talking about. Are you talking about the meeting you had with the Board of Ed?
No, the last council meeting.
Okay.
At the last council meeting, the statement that was read on behalf of the Board of Education to us that we never received in writing, because that's just been cleared up. Ms. Ariema said we didn't receive anything. And then last night, on a positive note though, we had a good subcommittee of the council and Board of Education meeting. I know the mayor will speak to that, but again, I just hope we can work as a team and keep it positive, for the, especially about the children. So.
And as a teacher, I just want to say also, I commend you because we should not be politicizing school children and the cost of school children for some sort of political purpose. So thank you.
Well, I think that's a money purpose. That's not politicizing anything. I mean, you mean the report that was brought up a few weeks ago that I said the grant was coming from the Board of Ed, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
it's the last council meeting.
Last council meeting.
At the last council meeting, there was a member from the Board of Ed who made a statement about the cost of schooling children with special needs, and it was highlighted about how much money that it actually costs. So we asked that, that member that if, was this a statement from the Board of Ed, and he said yes. And that it would be forwarded to Ms. Ariema from the board president, which it wasn't. So this was just a rogue member just coming in here just to throw numbers around, just to get everybody all fired up about it. And quite frankly, after the meeting, I actually wrote an email to the Board of Ed asking for a response and, quite frankly, a reason why that person would actually come in here saying that they were, representing the Board of Ed and highlighting, children with special needs. I'm a father of a special needs kid, okay? The last thing that any child needs is a dollar figure, put on their back by anybody. So I would still want a letter from the Board of Ed explaining why that member came in here. And if that's what the practice is gonna be of that person, then I don't think that they should be on the Board of Ed.
Well, I think there's Board of Ed people here tonight, so maybe they would be able to speak to it.
Well, that's up to them, but that member's not here, who wanted, to read that statement. So I'm still waiting for a response from the Board of Ed.
Okay.
It's not gotten.
Okay.
Even a resident non-Board of Education member at the last council meeting brought up how these communications are usually done via letter because of the fact that it's very difficult for one person to speak on behalf of the entire governing body. So I really just think those practices have to stop, and we need to work together and stay positive and stay within the right thing to do.
Okay, we'll move on from that point. Any new business? I have a couple of small things this evening. On May 19th, I attended the Libraries of Union County Consortium Legislation Day. The main discussion was about bills that were in the current legislature of New Jersey that will affect our libraries across the state. I also would like to share some of the facts they gave about the Libraries of Union County for the year 2016. We currently have 536,499 residents in our county, 2,405,037 visits to the libraries throughout the county, of course, 1,281,531 visits to the library websites, 1,818 library materials were borrowed from the libraries. So you can see our libraries throughout the county have been very active in their efforts to promote their libraries. This past weekend was the Garwood Townwide Yard Sale. I would like to thank each of the residents that participated in that. There was about 62 residents that participated. As Council President mentioned, this past Monday evening, a few members of council and myself met with Dr. Curley and some of the board members to share our thoughts on redevelopment. It was a very positive meeting that was held, and we intend to have another meeting in the near future. That's all I have. Thank you. Okay, comments or matters for discussion from members of council? Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Nothing from me, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kukrow.
Yes, I just have a quick thing. I received about a half a dozen phone calls about the townwide garage sale. I mean, I forgot already, was it done last year in June? Do you remember?
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
can't remember. Because a lot of people, they had a problem with it. They figured that maybe in June, why didn't we have it?
Just looking. Sorry, I
The public
apologize.
was notified via the garbage schedule mailed in December that it would be held in May. It was pushed up because we usually hold it at the beginning of June, and it collided with Garwood Rocks, the bulk and all that, because the bulk follows it. So we pushed it back to May.
I don't know, is there any way that it can be pushed to the end of June? I know two people
We're not,
told.
I don't
no?
believe we're doing it again this year. I mean, that's a lot of work for my office to prepare that, and we advertise it. People were notified, and if they didn't sign up, they couldn't participate.
I'm sorry, what was the issue?
Well, the issue was that they figured that it was like 2 weeks before the holiday, and also that last year it was in June, so they figured the kids are getting out of school, and they had a lot more time to have the yard sale and dump
They
all
were
the
notified
stuff.
in December about the yard sale.
A lot of
That's a lot of
participants as well.
62 to be exact.
All right, well, I
How does
brought,
that compare to last year's?
I would say on that it's a smaller amount, but it's always been in that area of participation.
Doesn't it also coincide with when we have bulk?
That's correct.
That's what I just said.
Yes.
So maybe we can look into next year. the
Yeah, maybe we
possibility
could.
of
Well,
pushing it back.
You all,
If it decides
no,
on the bulk.
you all picked the bulk date. You
Right,
picked that, so.
right. And
Well, I'm not dumping stuff, so I don't think about it, you know?
When it comes up by resolution, if you're not comfortable with the date, that's your time to say so, because after it's over, you can't say, should have been.
Like I said, I'm not
That's
saying
really
should have
unfair to
been.
me and the staff.
All I knew was,
Work hard.
I
Pull these
understand
things
that.
off, it's not like we wave our hands, it's a lot of work.
No, I understand that, but like I said, since I don't do it, I don't participate, I don't realize the ramifications that some people go through for it.
I know,
So-
but to make it sound like it wasn't properly publicized.
No,
you
no, I
didn't
didn't
know.
say that.
Well,
I didn't say
that's-
that.
They're calling you up and saying that they didn't know. that they
No,
don't
they,
read
not
the
that, they
material
said that
we
they
sent
didn't like the time of the year, they would have liked it a
They
month
told you
later.
after the fact.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure we could revisit it next year, but
Yeah,
next
next
year you
year.
might hear, oh, last year it was in May, why is it in June?
Well, you know what, I'm saying what was
It's in
told
the
to me.
spring, it's always
Okay.
in the spring. It's been in May
At this
before.
point,
Okay.
we'll
and
take
it's
it
been
under
in June.
advisement.
Okay.
And we'll leave it at that.
All right.
Okay. Councilman Lazaro?
Nothing for me, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Benziselli?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just kind of passed out to everybody, I just want to put this on your radar. It was a local parking meter summons pricing that we actually did in our police committee meeting, that the chief asked us to look into raising our parking fees. So I just wanted everybody, to have that, because the recommendation is to raise it from $32 to $38. If we raised it to $38, the borough would receive $21 of each meter ticket. And I actually have a breakdown as to where that all goes, where the money goes if we raise it. But basically, $17 of every ticket from every city ordinance goes to the state. So if anybody else wants to see that raised higher, or at the recommendation of $38, I just wanted to just put it out there. I know one person wanted to see it higher, so,
Yeah.
and she's smiling.
Well, I mean, we didn't know whether if we raised it higher, whether the state would take more money.
Right.
So maybe if we could find that out.
Well, again, from what you wrote here, $17 goes to the state, so the breakdown is, I don't know if the chief.
Can I ask the chief?
Yeah.
I did talk to our court administrator, $17 is a flat limit.
It's flat.
It doesn't matter how much we raise it after that.
Okay. But if anybody wants to know where the money goes, I can tell you. It's $2 goes to automated traffic system fund, 50 cents goes to emergency medical technician training fund, $3 goes to automated traffic system statewide monitorization fund, $5.50 is the fine, $1 is body armor, $1 is spinal cord research, $2 is New Jersey forensic DNA lab fund, $1 goes to autism medical research, and $1 goes to brain injury research.
Could you do me a favor, could you mail that over to me?
Sure.
Okay, that would be great.
I know that was part of the email that we did get from her.
Yeah, well, I mean, just, you know,
Okay, all right. If anybody else wants those.
thank you.
Anything else, Councilman?
No, but I don't know if anybody else wants to raise it higher or
Okay.
whether recommend 38.
What did your committee recommend?
Well, we kind of said that 38 was okay, but then this group.
I decided that it should be 40, but I'll go with the majority. I'm not gonna beat people up for $3 over that, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
38 definitely seems consistent with all the other towns.
Yeah, that's consistent.
Yep.
Some towns are more, like Springfield is $44, $38 would be Broadway, Linden's 40, Fanwood's 35, Elizabeth is 39, Cranford's 25, Summit's 25, and Union is 30.
I'm never one to raise fees, but this is a deterrent as well.
Yes.
And I have no problem.
Okay,
It's
very good.
also, it's also setting up for other things too,
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
so, no.
Councilman Sano?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be reading a parking report tonight. I'm going to recommend 3 ordinances, just so you guys are ready for that, and I'm going to ask for a general consensus. I also ask everyone to keep those in Manchester, England, in your hearts.
Yes.
As we have our moment of silence later.
Yes. Council President?
Yes, Mayor, just one item. The United Way reached out to me. They're having their annual gala here in Garwood at the Westwood on June 15th from 6 to 9 p.m. And they invited the mayor and council as their guests. So if anybody is available that night and can make it, just let me know so I can give them a head count. I'm 90% sure I'll be going, but again, that's June 15th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Westwood. So just let me know if you're going. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we come to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone. State your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
South Pierre 55 4th Avenue. Gosh, I almost even gonna come tonight. Before being a Board of Ed member, I'm a dad. And I'm a dad of a special needs child. I am utterly repulsed and disgusted at your comments tonight. A target? I feel so sorry for you if you believe that special needs children have a target on their back. The reality is, and it's not political, Mr. Lazaro, the reality is, out-of-district students can cost up to $400,000, Mr. Petrozelli. $400,000. That's reality, not political. And you have to take that into consideration. And again, as a father of a special needs child, I am repulsed and disgusted by each of you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
It's not fun. You should know that.
Okay.
I'm not laughing. You are.
I'm not laughing, Sal.
You are.
I'm still waiting for the letter from the Board of Ed.
You
Gentlemen,
gotta ask the
let's
president
stop
of the board.
right now.
It's not
Okay?
me.
Okay.
It's disgusting.
I'll ask her.
You have to.
I'm not going to hit the gavel again on an issue with you.
Good evening, Council. Bill Nierstead, 320 Hickory Avenue. Two comments, one sort of an official capacity.
Excuse me, Mr. Nierstead. That's enough, gentlemen.
Both sort of in a semi-official capacity. First, on the mayor's behalf, I represented the borough at a recent Raritan Valley Rail Coalition meeting. I wish that I could say that progress is being made on provision of more one-seat rides into New York, but I can't. I believe that there really isn't going to be much progress until Amtrak completes new tunnel construction projects. I really questioned, with 10 minutes after the meeting started, why they sent this out and why everyone was asked to please come, because really there was nothing to report. We were asked to link their petition requesting more one-seat New York trains to the borough's website and asked for our residents to sign it, and I'll discuss that with the borough clerk. And if anybody has any questions about the one-seat ride, we have it during the day, we have it at night, there's no rush hour, and that's not going to change for a long time. The other issue concerns CDBG. As one of the borough's representatives to the federal CDBG program, I want to express my thanks to this council for adopting recent resolution 2017-114, which calls for Congress to save the CDBG program from any cuts from its 2016 budget. I want to express my displeasure and regret, however, with the votes of council members Kukrow and Sarno who opposed the measure. In 2013, New Jersey paid nearly $37 billion to the B, more in federal taxes than the federal government returned to us. In other words, for every dollar that we New Jersey taxpayers paid to the federal government, we got back only 68 cents. That ranks us 48th in the nation. The CDBG program is one of the few ways that New Jersey and Garwood itself gets money back from the federal government. Since 2005, Garwood has received approximately $235,000 in CDBG grants, not loans, not matching grants, for various recreational, social, nutritional, and educational programs geared mostly towards our seniors. We received $45,000 for the senior handyman program. Most importantly, Garwood has received $25,000 each for rehabilitation of 25 houses during that time period, a total of approximately $250,000. This is extremely important as these 25 units help in our count toward providing affordable housing. I simply do not understand that the council members vote in opposition to federal funding for our seniors, the funding spent to help satisfy affordable housing obligations, or for even further reductions in the amount of funding that Garwood would receive from the federal government. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, okay.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Al Del Conte, 545 Locust Avenue. I would like to thank Councilwoman Olmstead and Tedisco, the water company, finally showed up and did the curb repair in front of my house, did the sidewalk repair up on the 400 block. I spoke to Mr. Goriello this evening as he was leaving, and he informed me that there's a professional way that the utility company is supposed to repair the grassy areas when they do their work, which is rake it, topsoil, seed, and hay. The water company, after they got done doing the curb work, came back, did no raking, no topsoil, threw seed on top of the bare areas, and hay. It's very distinctive now because the hay is still there. So anybody that would like to take a walk on the 400 and 500 block of Locust Avenue, you can see for yourself what it looks like. The gas company hasn't been back. I've been saying this for 2 months now, 10 weeks. The gas company hasn't come back to do anything. They did the blacktop work, but they haven't come back to do any lawn repairs. So I still have the 3 holes from the gas company on my front lawn that haven't been repaired. Neighbors still have settling. And now it's to the point where a couple of neighbors have taken it upon themselves to do that repair work. So, you know, I think somebody needs to get on top of somebody and get this work done. I asked Don about who watches over these utility work that's going on. And this major work that was done on these 2 blocks, and it's been done around town, but I've been just nitpicking on the 500 and 400 block because I see it every day. Nobody watches them. Don doesn't watch them, and he told me point blank, you don't do it. The utility companies they just have carte blanche. They come in and do what they want, and nobody looks over them. So I think something needs to be done with this board to put something together where somebody oversees these utility companies, goes back and checks on the utility companies. Nobody goes back to look at work a year later. Nobody checks anything. And that's why our roads are in the shape that they're in. So I would appreciate it if somebody could, look into that. I know Ms. Councilwoman Kubrow, you've been. I would like to see it looked at a little bit harder because it continues on happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conte.
Karen McCarrick, 348 Locust Avenue. It's time for my annual quality of life discussion because we're a crowded borough in the most crowded state in the union. We need enforcement as far as quality of life issues go. I have some concerns about garbage being put out without cans, garbage being put out well prior to the 6 p.m. time the night before, sometimes cans being left out well after. And to piggyback on Mr. Del Conte, who is responsible for that enforcement? There was garbage on Center Street on Saturday for the Monday pickup. Large white bags all over, like the center, not exactly the center of town, but that. So clearly, oh, it wasn't part of the bulk program. It was in white plastic, one single trash can. Okay, but again, it shouldn't have been put out prior to 6 p.m. Right. So my question is, who's enforcing the 6 p.m.? Nobody.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Noise concerns, if you call the police department with a noise concern after 9, they say, well, you can come in and sign a complaint, thank you. I shouldn't have to sign a complaint. I should be able to call the police department and have them respond, especially when the noise is going on and on for hours and hours. I don't often call, but when I do, I expect the courtesy of a response. Property maintenance, who enforces that if the grass is a foot high? And the parking. The parking now, you've pushed the problem out of the center of town, and it's going further and further up Center Street. It's approaching Spruce now. I live on Locust, I hope it doesn't get there, but it's on its way.
It's on for pavement now.
That's what I mean. You know, so you fixed the problem for some people, but we just have people continuing. So you fixed it in one place, but made it worse for the rest of the town.
The parking committee has been doing.
We're working on it,
right?
okay, so, thank you.
And he's going to make a report.
In terms of Garwood Rocks, I would like to remind you that your first priority is to the residents of the residential streets. We've had Garwood Rocks on Locust Avenue on Sunday mornings since it started. The borough has a specific ordinance regarding petting zoos, regarding circuses, and in the past 2 years, if you've come down my block of Locust, that's what I've had on 348 Locust. So I'd like to ask you to please confine Garwood Rocks to the major thoroughfare of the borough.
Okay.
And I don't, as I said last year and the year before, I don't mind 50 old men in their old cars. But I do mind a generator operating from like about 9 in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon. I don't think it belongs in a residential neighborhood. And finally, I would just like to remind the mayor and council that a special ed student can move into any house in this borough. They are not confined to moving into large new construction. We have special ed students in Garwood. We value them as the supervisor of special services for 8 years in the recent past. I can tell you Garwood takes care of its children very well, and we will continue to do so. So thank you, Ms. Tedesco, for your comments.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson, are you ready now?
Good evening, Mayor Lombardo, ladies and gentlemen. Council Jules Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue. Just to mention about Bill Nish that's saying we're 48th in getting back money that we're giving to the federal government. Maybe you should pass a resolution because, I mean, Senator Booker and Senator Menendez are supposed to be on top of that, getting as much money as possible. And we've been 48th, we've been down there for years, could be 2 decades now. And that's a situation that has been talked about in the media. Nobody does anything, and maybe for your constituents.
Thank you.
Maybe, for your constituents, maybe come up with a resolution. I mean, you did that one on the CDBG, thank you very much. But, follow through and, point out exactly who's the one that should be chasing this down. And actually, the federal budget was released today, and I don't know about the CDBG monies. The infrastructure grant, I guess that's the one you were discussing about Center Street. Is that the one?
That's correct.
That's the one. Yeah, it's out this year. People were wondering about whether it's next year. That infrastructure grant was actually developed out of the monies of the profit of Runnels. And the profit was about $4.5 million they made as a profit. And now we've gone 3 years with this $1.5 million. So we used up the profit now. Does that mean anything, next year? I don't know. The county has plenty of money. So they may continue. But just keep that in mind. They now used up the profit that they were basing this infrastructure grant on. The rec complex, I guess after I sit down, I guess would you talk about it, or were you planning to talk about it anyway later on?
We're going to talk about that executive session.
Correct.
So that's it?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Also, this is the second time, that parking lot over there, I mean, now it's not just piles of dirt, but it's old concrete pipe, cast iron pipe dumped in the parking lot of Petro's property, right? You must have seen it. Oh, it's disgusting. I mean, it's worse than the first time. The first time, right, you were complaining about dirt piles. You should see what's over there now.
I just didn't know where the dirt came from the last time, so I don't know where the pipes come from. Is it part of the road work, Chief?
Chief, you may.
Yeah, Russo did give the Midwest Construction permission temporarily to use it as a staging area for the road work being done on 3rd Avenue. I've talked to them, it's out of control, and they're going to address it by the end of this week.
Yeah, the assessment, reassessment more so than ever. I mean, you know, we gotta put together some kind of coalition together. Like I said, Fanwood, Kenilworth's on board. They were all excited too. I forgot the mayor's name. Fanwood, Scotch Plains, Kenilworth, they were all excited about pushing for something from the county, you know, some kind of relief. You know, and now that Garwood's in the site. I guess the question is, why did they pick Garwood? You know, they picked Westfield, they picked Winfield, and now they pick Garwood. I mean, I guess it's, what, whack-a-mole, they're hitting every town or something like that.
If I may, there was an article released about 2 months ago, that the top 31 towns in the state of New Jersey that were possibly eligible to be asked to be revalid, and we were the 29th person on that, town on that list. So we've been in their radar for a while.
All right, when you say 29th, I mean, they worked their way down.
I'm just saying, there's a list of 31. The article did not describe the criteria for the.
Or the ranking, whatever it was, but
Right,
they
it was
listed
just
it.
ranking, that was all.
But we moved all the way up the list?
Guess so?
Oh my goodness, we're special.
It really divides from the county. We notified that it was Middlesex County, Union County, and then the county has slowly made their way down, as per the towns that were the worst offenders.
Well, let's see if other small towns get ordered, and maybe that's the
No, no.
common denominator.
You know, I was thinking about doing it over to find out what their rationale was as to what they're doing town by town. You know, I'd like to see why Garwood is now in the limelight. Union County taxes, I asked that last time, does anybody know what the taxes are going to be average?
I asked the CFO, and she got back to me today saying she still hasn't heard Garwood's exact number. She would follow up with them again, but as of the last time she had spoken to them, she didn't hear, and I didn't receive any notification before this meeting. So as soon as I get that number, I will be sharing it, not just for you, Mr. Patterson, but also for the sake of the public.
All right, not to put you on the spot.
I thought it was $139.
Yeah, it was in the Westfield Leader. I don't know if you wrote the article, but
Right?
somebody wrote the article, and Garwood was getting hit for $133.
I didn't get through the whole paper yet.
Well, I don't know if it was last week or week before, but it was soon after I asked that
Okay.
question. and it
It's
came
biggest
out.
of the three.
But that's actually 2 times what the average tax impact for all the residents of all 21 towns. And I'll tell you, I mean, you know, it's kind of a rolling average when they figure out the equalized value. I don't see why we are getting hit for 2 times the average. Because, I mean, the ratables have been basically flat. We haven't really built anything in the last couple of years. So this goes back to that RVSA issue, you know, where just RVSA goes up, up, up. I don't know. Maybe you guys can look into it. Aren't you, you know, you'd be interested, I'm sure, your constituents. And also, 16 questions or 18 questions I asked the mayor back in September.
It says I emailed you, I asked for that document, I received it, and it's in the final preparation right now. I have it in a week or 2.
All right, well, the issue I have here is I've been asking for it since September.
And you are correct.
And now you're going to actually be voting on what this was all about.
As I
That's the reason
also
why I asked these
indicated in my
questions.
letter, I'm the only one who responded to that also. Everybody else had an opportunity, I was on the former council.
I missed that one. What was that?
I said, the opportunity was for everybody to answer on the former council. I'm the one answering, it's taking me that long, I apologize.
Yeah, but you're facing this ordinance in the regular agenda session, and right now I was asking for information, and I never got it. I mean, I'm going to ask you to table that ordinance then.
Okay.
You know, until I get the questions, and I'll speak again come ordinance time. But, okay, that's all, and if, just, that explains it very complex. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward? Okay, thank you. Anyone else at this time? Seeing one, do I have a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting?
I'll make that one.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on now to our regular agenda. Everyone stand for a moment of silence, salute to the flag, as Councilman suggested. We will keep the victims of Manchester in our hearts. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger, promptly posted on the Municipal Public Bulletin Board, and filed in the office of the Municipal Clerk before the public in time and place according to the provision of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Please everyone turn your cell phones off and put them on vibrate. Ms. Ariam, a roll call.
Mayor Lombardo.
Here.
Councilwoman Blumenstock. Here. Councilman Kukrow.
Here.
Councilman Mazaro.
Here.
Councilman Petroselli.
Here.
Councilman Sarno.
Here.
Council President Tedisco.
Here.
Ms. Ariam, minutes.
Regular workshop and executive session minutes of the mayor and council held on May 9, 2017.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes, Mayor.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Ariam, communications.
New Jersey State League of Municipalities Mayor's Advisory.
Receive and file.
City of Norway Resolution.
Receive and file.
And Township of Cranford Ordinance.
Receive and file. Move on to ordinance, public hearing on ordinance 17-06. It's advertised in the Westfield Leader. Ms. Ariam, please read ordinance 17-06 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance of the Borough Council of Borough of Garwood, County of Union, New Jersey, adopting the South Avenue transit-oriented redevelopment plan pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 4812A-1.
Have you received any correspondence on 17-06?
I have not, Mayor.
Does anyone present wish to be heard concerning ordinance 17-06?
Evening, Mayor and Council. Bill Nierstead, 320 Hickory Avenue. I support adoption of the South Avenue redevelopment plan, as to me it is a win-win-win. Blighted, dilapidated industrial use that is community eyesore will disappear. Contaminated property in the middle of our community will be cleaned. A new mixed-use development with potential to enliven our downtown will be constructed. Development will provide affordable housing for our young adults who, because of today's economics, work at lower paying jobs than their parents, but must pay for their own health care and retirement, as most companies no longer offer such services. It will provide housing for empty nesters who are tired of maintaining their own houses but want to remain in Garwood. It will increase our tax rate almost perhaps tenfold. Are there unanswered questions? Of course there are. But adopting this plan tonight will allow us to move to the next phase and get those questions answered. The site plan phase will allow us to get answers about traffic, drainage, open space, proper relationships between the number of housing units, retail space, and parking. It will allow us to obtain much-needed downtown and commuter parking. It will provide long-sought and much-needed support for increased New Jersey transit, train stops, and perhaps an improved station. The Planning Board can make recommendations to Council to use pilot funds for related on- or off-site capital improvements and provide educational support for new students. The financial expert the Council hired has vetted the development and developer and found both to be on a sound basis. I believe that our failure to move on this project will resign us to continue to look at the existing buildings for the foreseeable future, and in the long run, hurt the borough's fiscal abilities and financial stability. I do not believe an opportunity like this will come around again soon. I urge you to adopt this plan tonight and to advance it to the Planning Board for site plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Newstead. Anyone else? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 7? Sorry. You have to listen, just raise your hand.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Good evening, Mayor Lombardo, ladies and gentlemen. Council, Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue. We're looking at this ordinance 1706, and I've basically been concerned residents following this whole process all the way through. Where there's longer, this process can be longer. But basically through these months and years, I mean, I kept hearing two statements. One is our hands are tied and we can't do anything about it. I find this to be BS, basically, in my opinion. There were three groups involved in this process. Each is at least supposed to be concerned about taking care of the residents and the build-out of Garwood in a proper way. It's a development review committee, the planning board, and the council. And basically, all I saw throughout this whole process, they just rolled over and played dead. All three have acted as a dismal failure to protect the interests of our community. Let's look at some of the facets of this issue and Casal project that we're facing now. Rental versus ownership. The developer proposed the rentals. We didn't need to accept it. We could have easily, at that point, upstream, just said, we want half rentals and half ownership, but nope, rolled over and played dead. Now we're looking at a tipping point of over 50% rentals. Any realtor will attest this is a destructive point, 50%, because now there's going to be less ownership than rentals, and the vested interest comes out of being an owner. Yes, they may have some vested interest, but being an homeowner, definitely an interest. In fact, Chair Greed at one time said he as a homeowner, he has a vested interest, and then he goes and votes to create this 50% rental ratio. That didn't make any sense. Density. No one actually talked about the density of this ordinance until I was on the planning board, and it wasn't in writing, and I actually asked the question, what was the density? And the response from Venegra was 50%. I mean, 60 units per acre. Four times our townhouse ordinance. That night, all the planning board did was argue about whether we should have brown or white mullions around windows, but nobody really talked about particulars. One planning board one planning board member actually did talk about the verbiage, which was great, so I commend them that. I had a lot of verbiage questions, but I was so appalled at what I saw, I kind of just sat back and shook my head on it all. COA, this is at least a good thing, it's because we are resolving our COA obligations. But then, another failure. It went from 15%, which is a standard COA ratio, it went down to 10% over at Casal, and the 5% impact difference adds approximately 75 to 100 units in our town, creating even a higher density. I don't know how that came about. Somewhere there was a failure, way upstream. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Casal. We're sitting here, we were basically passing Phase 1. Fortunately, it's now, but before we were trying to pass Phase 1 without even knowing what Phase 2 was. That's just dumb, because we had no idea what's going to be there. Now we do, but it's the same property, and it should have been addressed both at the same time. The question is, the financial analyst says it's fine, but I mean, is the financial analyst taking into account both projects together? Because maybe I should Oprah the financial analysis. I got to take a look at that. Eminent domain. Well, what happened to that for parking spots? I mean, I was coming to council meetings for a good year. There was arguments about eminent domain. It was for parking spots over there. All of a sudden, it just kind of like disappeared, and now we don't have any parking spots over there. We were getting 9. So I mean, that was a failure there. I mean, I actually supported it. I pushed for eminent domain. Parking, a 5-story parking garage now we're going to be facing. That's a monstrosity. Cranford has a 5-story parking garage. It's big. Are people going to actually park way in the back to come downtown? Say to Lorenzo? I don't know. It's something. I mean, I appreciate that the parking was addressed to a good point, and that the developer, then when he decreased the units by 17, it was, he wanted the parking spots to be decreased by 122. And at least at that point, we stopped and said, no, we want 500. So there was a good point there. New Jersey Transit, that was mentioned by another person. I mean, putting 500 more transit-oriented people and never talking to New Jersey Transit about getting stops. I mean, there's going to be 500 people there. Where's the extra stops? I mean, nobody talked about that. I brought that up so many times. It's just incredible.
to appoint a summarizer, Mr. Pettis.
I'm gonna keep talking until I get thrown out. Response?
We're not gonna throw you out, we're gentlemen and ladies here.
Well, you know, a lot of these issues, all the way through, step by step, could have been addressed. Could have been addressed by the planning board, could have been addressed by the council. The hands were not tied. Response to the residents, I mean, so many times the residents came out, no response.
I agree with Bruce Robinson.
I wrote a letter a long time ago to the planning board with suggestions. Chair Greek just kept saying, yeah, we received your letter. Really good, really good. I mean, you know, that's so imperial. Like, get out of here, resident, get out. Vic Vinegra, the planning board planner, he was dependent on all the way through the process. He actually gets his bread and butter from working with developers of high density, and you're depending on him. There was a major conflict there, and at least the people should have been, or the members of the planning board, and even the residents, should have been a check and balance to Vinegra, not listening to Vinegra and having him control it. He had a major conflict on his shoulders. Yeah, one member of the planning board actually has experience. You know, and I appreciate a lot of his input, but then recently he made the statement that he would have liked to see even a higher density at that Casal project, a higher density. I was amazed at that one. I could have had a heart attack. The pilot, nobody talked about the pilot in public. You guys didn't talk about the pilot. I asked, the other council meeting, I asked about the pilot, and turned to Renaud and said, oh, it's in the fairness hearing, and the fairness hearing was accepted. But nobody talked about the pilot. You know, that's what's incredible. Nobody's talking about things, nobody's doing anything, it's just rolling over and playing dead, saying our hands are tied. Hazardous material, okay, that's being cleaned up. I mean, that's a plus. But that's actually, and I mentioned this at the fairness hearing. The hazardous material cleanup is between the two private entities, the buyer and the seller. The government somehow got involved and screwed up this whole project royally, and that's why we're looking at 300 units. One member of the planning board actually has hazmat experience, and he said, yes, it was not to be part of anything. It's between the buyer and the seller. The Aeolian, just as an aside, the Aeolian about 2 years ago, the Aeolian lawyer.
You're over 15 minutes, I appreciate it, sum up now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Look, I understand, okay, just to sum up, I mean, I understand government is comprised of regular people. That's what our government is, going back to 1776, you know, which I commend those that serve. But unfortunately, you know, you get into government and somehow you just become imperial and you make these statements that you can't stop anything, our hands are tied. That's just wrong. You can, and listen to the people. That's the problem. Nobody actually listens to the people. You just take it on yourself just to proceed merrily along, and this is what we get. This is a learning curve. And we shouldn't be facing the largest project in Garwood as a learning curve. And this is, like I said, I mentioned so many issues with this. And I'll tell you right now, and my 16 questions weren't answered, I think you should table this, get my 16 questions answered at least, and seriously think about it, because your hands are not tied. You still have a say. Will that kind of abruptly toss a wrench in the process? Maybe. I'm sure Attorney Renaud can actually say something about that. But you do have the capacity to address the proper build-out. The density is like a major issue. I've had that concern, and so did many other people. So, as a wrap-up, you know, just saying yes is not the answer. So, thank you very much for listening.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Do we have a motion to close public hearing on ordinance 17-06?
So moved.
Second. Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 17-06?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
Discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to say something about this, as obviously this is a huge issue here in Garwood, and it has been something that the planning board and the council have discussed for many years, and I know it's been in the hearts and minds of our residents here, because for as long as I can remember talking to people, they ask you, what's going on with Petro Casal, with paperboard, essentially with these underutilized industrial properties that are, quite frankly, eyesores in the center of our community, that you drive by and I drive by literally every single day. And so tonight I view as a decision is before us. It's taken a lot to get to this point, but we're here, and we have a decision to make, just like how in the past, councils and planning boards have had to make decisions on these types of changes for Garwood. And I know change can be a scary thing, but planning boards and councils before us put forth changes to take worn down factories and turn them into ShopRite, Home Depot, the Garwood Plaza, and most recently the beautiful Lofts and Point. So here we are, it's our time to make some kind of decision, and as representatives of the people, I believe it is our job to ensure that the Garwood residents get the best deal we can possibly negotiate for them, and that's why I am happy that back last September, I said, hey, let's stop this for a second, let's bring in some professionals. We hired a redevelopment attorney who specializes in this field. We hired a financial advisor to review this. We really did our due diligence and brought outsiders in to give us advice. And quite honestly, the financial advisor did an analysis and came to find out that 315 units that we were looking at last September was actually completely viable and that it wasn't unfair. Essentially, the developer, of course, would be making a profit. He'd have to, but not make one where his pockets are so large that he literally can't get out of town because they're so full. Basically, it was fair, but that still wasn't good enough for this council. It wasn't good enough for me, and we pushed and we said, can we get this lower? And we did. We got it to 298 units, which is 17 units. It's not 170, of course, but I would certainly take 17 less than I would 17 more. So it is what it is. We are at a lower number tonight. And another point I do want to make is that, yes, in the backdrop of all this, as we've talked about and we've had votes on dealing with the affordable housing mandate by the state, Garwood, just like many other towns in the state of New Jersey, are forced to really comply with state law or truly face hundreds of thousands of dollars in builders' remedy lawsuits. And they're not made up. They've hit Cranford, they've hit Roselle Park, Scotch Plains, you name it. They've hit a lot of places. I've asked Mr. Renaud to give us an estimate. Hundreds of thousands of dollars we're talking about here that could be spent and you'd still end up with more units. But anyway, in looking at this project, I did ask for some numbers on a preliminary pilot and got that from the financial advisor. So right now, those properties pay a total of about $235,000 in taxes. Once complete, this would bring in nearly $700,000 in additional tax monies to Garwood. To be exact, with the number from the financial advisor, that's $689,135. Also, I asked about job creation. I was told it would create between 100 and 200 construction jobs, 6 to 8 permanent maintenance jobs for this construction and maintaining the building, and also all the jobs that would come in from the retail stores at the bottom, which it's my understanding that the planning board worked to negotiate retail stores at the bottom. Otherwise, the developer would have just put completely, constructed a building completely filled with luxury apartments, not even retail there. So I've thought long and hard about this, and I do appreciate the comments of Mr. Patterson, and I understand there are still some concerns out there, and there is a long road ahead, certainly with site plan, as was brought up, where many details will be worked out. But just so everyone knows, I do intend to vote yes, but make no mistake about it, I do plan to be tough, and I'm sure, and I hope the rest of the council will join me in being tough to ensure that we get the best value on finding out the exact taxes we'll bring in from this project, and also to be tough on any future developments to make sure we're giving the residents the best deal we can possibly work for. So that's what I wanted to say about this. Thanks, Mayor.
I have something to say about it. You said $235,000 in taxes are being brought in now?
Yes, that's
what I... Is that
what
without the current appeals on the property?
That was the 2016 number that
Okay, all right, so
financial advisor
all right, so with
provided.
the current appeals, all right, so it'll be even less than that. So the thing is, everybody knows how I feel about this. This will change the entire landscape of the town, increasing the population 25%, 25. increasing our rentals from 36.5% to over 50. You develop that paperboard, we're gonna be a town that's all rentals. This is not Jersey City. I mean, it really is not. I mean, I feel really strongly about it. I feel like the planning board, they closed their eyes and they sold the town down the river with their eyes wide open, wide open. You know, and I'm sorry, I was on the planning board before. I knew what was coming down the line. And I did everything I could. The density of this project in Garwood is a monster. I don't think anybody really realizes the size of this project. You really don't. Look what they're building in Westfield. That is 70 units, and it's massive. I mean, it wasn't fair the way this was done. I mean, the 15 to 10% for the COA requirements on cleanup. I mean, the developer got that cleanup in the price of that property. We should not be paying for that builder to have cleanup at the cost of our residents. I mean, whoever saw a project this size, this will be the biggest in Union County and one of the smallest towns. I mean, nobody's saying they didn't want anything going there, because certainly everybody did. But the size and scope of this is basically, like I said, Garwood will never be the same. And to create a project that looks just like every other project up and down North and South Avenue, they don't even have any imagination. I mean, none. I mean, this whole process made me, I don't even have any more words for it. But it was not done properly from the beginning. And basically, the council is left holding the bag of what the planning board created. And you can all argue with me all you want. I know you all have the talking points. I feel like this from a resident. And I've lived here for 50 years. You know, Garwood, people moved to Garwood for what Garwood was, not for what certain people want to turn it into. We're just not where you think it's going to be. And if you think, you keep saying it's going to turn us into Westfield and Cranford, well, it won't. We don't have to offer anything that Westfield or Cranford has to offer. We just don't. And I'm definitely not going to vote for this. I'm not voting for this for everything that happened before it got to council. Because I can honestly say that, yeah, they did the best they could, but that developer knew exactly what his bottom line was going to be. So him cutting 17 units off the 315 and adding 52 across the street, of which I don't see any proposal for how many students are going to be in that project. None. And so I'm going to definitely be voting against this, and I really believe I have just cause, and I have a big, large majority of the residents that believe the same way. There are definitely people that are for this, and I respect their opinion, and I respect what they want. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to speak, Mayor. I understand there's still a lot of concern out there about this project. There were aspects of it that I think we all had concerns about coming into it. And one of my goals when elected was to make sure that the council followed through and got an independent firm to analyze the financials so that I could feel better about that number. And even so, yes, I'm glad we were able to get that number reduced. But I am happy to be able to tell the residents that we did look into it. Those numbers do add up. And I know nobody likes to think about a private property owner making a profit, but it is the reality we live in. And that being said, we are dealing with a private property owner. And so my goal was to make sure that we get as much control, that we retain as much control over the project as we possibly could. And I do feel like we did achieve that. We were able to have control over what stores go in there, how it looks, some parking across the street, some extra parking for the police department and fire department. And I know that the affordable housing did tie our hands. I know nobody like to hear tie our hands, but that was a very big constraint in our negotiating with the private property owner. It really was. It's a harsh reality that we had to deal with, towns around us have had to deal with. It really did make negotiations a tough sell. But I feel like we worked very hard. I feel like across both parties, I think we came across the aisle and really did work hard for the best possible outcome. And from here on in, I'm just looking forward to the positive aspects of it. I do see some positive aspects coming from it. I really do. Not just the increased revenue, which is fantastic to hopefully help ease the burden on the taxpayers, but I think Garwood has a lot to offer. And I think this will only increase what we have to offer. You know, I know you said Westfield and Cranford, we don't have to be like them. And we don't have to be like them, but I think it's great that we strive to give our residents as much as we can. This will create a great downtown that all of the residents can enjoy. And so from here on in, I am going to be looking for the positives in this, and I do see many. We spoke about many. And I echo Councilwoman Tedisco's sentiments that we will work hard as we continue with the financial negotiations with the pilot and on the future projects that come down the road. So, thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I'm going to add is I've been on all sides of this issue. And I truly respect where everyone comes from, wherever you may feel about the issue. I really do. What changed it for me was the Supreme Court of New Jersey stealing away all of our leverage. For that reason, this is the best deal we had, and we're going to have to support it. And I look forward to doing the best going forward in the future in terms of a pilot agreement and everything else that we have to do to comply with our co-obligation with the Supreme Court of New Jersey and as we go forward. That's all I have to add.
Thank you.
I'll just add quickly, we worked really hard on this council to try our very best to fight for Garwood, and that's something that we promised in our campaign, to make sure that we did our due diligence in getting as much information from the professionals to come to a conclusion, to a decision. And, as Councilman Sarno said, that we were in a position. It's not that we are saying that, we can't do anything because we can't do anything. We're saying that we had very limited options available to us. I don't think paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in litigation that didn't look like we were going to win whatsoever was a viable option for our town. I thought that was a dangerous option. It was throwing caution to the wind. And I also agree, at this point, I'm also going to look at the positives. I'm excited about what the development has to offer us. And I think Garwood has a lot of potential. We don't need to be Westfield or Cranford, but we can strive to be better. And I think that industrial complex that's been abandoned for 10 years, we can do better than that. So that's all.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I could just say one more thing, because that Westfield Cranford comparison's coming up, and as a Garwood born and raised, I know how we feel about that. So I just want to say Garwood has a lot to offer because we're about value. We offer a great value in this town, and that's what we need to keep doing. And so certainly from where I'm sitting, we do not need to be Westfield. We do not need to be Cranford. We are Garwood, and we are a great town. And you know what? I grew up looking at rundown factories where the Garwood Plaza is now. It became the Garwood Plaza, and I got my first high school job there. So I saw leaving Garwood going into Westfield on the right-hand side, rundown factory, and now it's the beautiful lofts and point with retail at the bottom of the loft. So we can move forward and not have to lose our identity of being a great small town and being a great community that people want to live in and help each other out as with our great community spirit that we really have here in this borough. So I just want to clear that up, that absolutely there is no comparison here that needs to be made between other towns. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few words. I definitely do respect everyone's position on this, I mean, especially yours, Mrs. Kubrow, because you've been here for 50 years. I hear that you're speaking from your heart, and it's something that you truly do believe in. But there's also people who really want something done, and what's coming in is really not going to bother them. They just hope that it adds value to Garwood, which I think it will. For other people to, put down the planning board, I mean, I think the planning board has done a really good job here in Garwood. If you just look around, I mean, I've been here 24 years. It's not 50 years, but I've been here long enough to see that the positive changes that the planning board has done, such as getting ShopRite when it was teetering where they weren't going to come in because Westfield didn't want it. So I think the planning board in Garwood was pretty savvy to, turn around and, bring it all in Garwood. We which, you know, I know people talk about traffic and the parking lot's terrible, but it's something that we have. It is the barber shop, right? Same thing where, you know, where the lofts are and also where the Muse is. I think that's a heck of a lot better than looking at the old Thomas and Betts factory, you know, that was there. But I think that the planning board really has done a great job over the past 20, 40 years that I've seen. And I think that they had a good vision in mind when this happened, okay? And it's something that's going on, you know, throughout the state. And, you know, what, you know, Joe Sarno said is, you know, 100% true. I mean, you know, the Supreme Court got involved and that's it. You know, this is what you have to do. So, you know, we're dealing with it the best way that we can. I think that we're doing a very good job. And I look forward to, you know, seeing phase 1 and phase 2 and, you know, whatever else is going to be coming down the pipe, if it's the paper board or any other area, you know, in the borough. So I will support this because I think that it is moving the borough forward.
And what do you think is going to happen with all of the continued building? I mean, we've had a ton of building over the last 10, 15 years. It hasn't lowered taxes.
If I may just finalize it, we'll leave that for the future. We don't really know. You know, there is multiple potential buildings to come forward.
Well, I know what's been built before, Mayor, and our taxes have gone up every single year over the course of 15 years. So all that building has not done anything to decrease our taxes. Nothing. And I've seen it.
Okay. Anyone else? Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilwoman Blumenstock. Aye. Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Fisco.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Ariano, please read ordinance 17-07 by title only.
Yeah, this is for introduction only. An ordinance repealing Chapter 34, Article 2 of the Code of the Borough of Berwick entitled Police Department Rank and Classification.
Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance 17-07?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilwoman Blumenstock. Aye. Councilwoman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
And Council President Fisco.
Aye.
Ms. Ariano, please read ordinance 17-08 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance to amend subsection H in 106-118 fences and walls in Article 8 zone regulations in Chapter 106 land use of the Code of the Borough of Berwick to amend restrictions on fences on corner lots.
Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Council President Fisco.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Standing Committee reports and other reports. Police, Councilman Petrozelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Garwood Rocks, our annual street fair and car show will be held on Sunday, June 4th. As in years past, there will be no parking on Center Street or in the 300 block of Beach Avenue from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. the day of the event. If you live on one of these streets that will be closed, please park on another street or in the Sal lot next to the fire department prior to the event. May is Bicycle Safety Month. Cyclists under the age of 18 must wear a helmet, and all cyclists are required to obey the rules of the road. To our motoring public, please slow down and yield to cyclists. Thank you. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Any comments about the police report? Hearing none, Public Health, Councilwoman Kukrow.
No report, Mayor. Our next meeting is in June.
Thank you. Streets and Roads Ecology, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to regular garbage pickup, the DPW removed debris from all walkways, decks, bleachers, and the basketball court within the sports complex. They mowed, trimmed, and maintained all municipal-owned properties and parks, and they also placed and picked up barricades for various block parties and swept the block party locations. In addition, they performed pothole repairs along Center Street and intersecting roads in preparation of the annual Garwood Rocks Street Fair, and installed the new light pole banners in various locations of the borough. They also assisted administration in disposing of old files from Borough Hall. These files were transported for record retainment to the storage facility on South Avenue. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments on the report? Hearing none, Fire, Councilman Sarno.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Finance, Council President Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee met and discussed capital planning. The Mayor and Council was provided capital requests by the various department heads during the budget process. But in the coming months, we are going to be conducting a more in-depth review of projects ranging from small pieces of equipment, such as radios, to the larger ones such as roads and municipal buildings, as well as everything in between. It obviously takes a lot to maintain a town, and all of us on this committee are dedicated to making this process and this plan as transparent as possible. In regards to the police department in particular, we've received the projected plan by Chief Bruce Underhill a few months ago, but we are working with our current Chief Jim Wright to develop a 5-year capital plan for the police department. In speaking with him, he has provided us a detailed proposal for traffic safety measures, which is of the top priority to him, and I've passed that out to the mayor and the rest of the council this evening to review. All three of us are in agreement that these actions are important to the public's safety, and they directly address resident concerns that have been brought before us time after time. The intersection at Spruce and West is the most dangerous in the borough, with more severe crashes occurring there than at any other intersections. Pine and East is another intersection where there are similar concerns. Additionally, there is much concern about speeding, particularly on hotspots such as 4th, East, and 2nd. Chief Jim Wright has proposed the following to help alleviate these safety issues. New stop signs with LED lights and stop sign ahead signs for West and Spruce, as well as East and Pine. Warning dangerous intersection ahead for Spruce and West, for Spruce and East in each of the 4 directions approaching the intersections. 2 solar-powered feedback radar units, which can be moved as needed to alert drivers of their speed on these cut-through streets that I mentioned previously. And the total cost of this project is $16,000, so I feel that we get a lot of bang for our buck here. While the police department has been working hard in the past 2 years to secure grants to pay for these items, both the State Department of Transportation and Traffic Safety have denied our applications. The Finance Committee unanimously recommends the council to move forward and allocate current capital account dollars to make this project become a reality. The borough has about $175,000 in capital cash on the books, and we agree that this project is worth the expense. If we have consensus, we'd like to ask the council to direct this to be placed on our next agenda. And that's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President.
So I know we have the unanimous support of the Finance Committee, but it would be good to hear at least one other person say they want to move forward.
I have no problem with health and safety in this town. So whatever has to be done with the police department to get this rectified, there have been complaints by a lot of people.
Right.
And you can't put a on that.
So that has to be done by.
Why do you get audio?
Yes.
Everybody talks all over this
I
place.
gavel everyone.
Yeah.
Me too.
So is there, that would have to be done by capital ordinance, so that would be prepared by Mr. Knott. So what is the exact
Okay.
amount?
It's
We need
6.
it- You could just email me the email.
Oh, yes, I'll-
Like a thorough description of what you're.
Yes, we have that all in the proposal.
I'll take that in the email tomorrow.
Okay,
And
not
you
a
guys
problem.
want me to prepare, have Mr. Knott prepare it for the next meeting? That's
Yes,
perfect.
and $16,000.
Okay, Bob, I'll get you the data.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Councilman Sono, you wanted to speak?
That was the only thing I was wanting to add, lives matter.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is something that has to be done, we've seen it, we've all seen accidents there, we've all heard of them if you haven't seen them, so this is something that needs to be done, and I've said the same thing to Mark and Stone.
And I was yapping about this last year with the speeders, so
Well,
I don't know about
I was
that.
gonna say, I particularly am happy to see us doing something about it. I came in to speak to the council about this very matter about 4th Avenue in particular. So I'm happy to do whatever we can, especially for those cross streets up there, to reduce the speed.
All right, so we'll move forward. Mr. Renaud, you're all set, and we'll get that to you.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, Council, for making that go forward. Thank you. Buildings and Grounds, Councilman Lazaro.
Just a quick update on the rec center. We were able to secure the firm Falcon Group to look at our the rec center, and we will be looking over the report in executive session. And when we can report information after we go over that report, we will. That's about it.
Thank you. Falcon?
Yes.
Again.
Falcon, yes. They were-
Laws and License, Councilwoman Rivera.
No report, Mayor.
Recreation, Councilman Petrozelli.
No report,
Barwood Senior
There's a
Citizens.
motion by the report.
What did that wasn't licensed?
Raffle. Do you have something? And also, we
Yeah, we
need
have
to direct Mr. Arnott to prepare an ordinance for the
Towing?
towing, yes. We mentioned it at the last meeting, it was in
Yeah,
your
but we never-
report,
yeah, but
Councilwoman.
we never sat down and actually talked about it, so I would like to
We
do
did.
that. We did.
Towing with Chief Wright.
Tell me about towing.
He gave us a recommendation for towing as opposed to other surrounding towns.
To increase the charge and also to increase the area that Garwood could secure a vendor that would then place the equipment at that yard. Right now, it's very tight perimeter, so if we were to expand that, that would make,
I don't remember off the top of my head what the ordinance says. So we've got, refresh my memory, do we have a rotating schedule? In other words, qualified vendors, and we've got an ordinance and they charge X, whatever it is?
Chief Wright, would you like to speak?
Yeah, through ordinance, we have established fees for towing, storage and the like. We're just looking to increase the fees to make them on parity with other towns around us. The other part of the ordinance I wanted to see change was the requirement that they store all vehicles towed from the borough within a mile of the borough. It limits the amount of tow operators that can put out for bid because they don't have a storage area that close. So we can increase the area to, say, 5 miles, which was the recommendation. We would get more tow operators that could put out for bid for our contract.
All right, does somebody have all of this summarized somewhere for me?
Yes, Chief Wright got it over to the Laws and License Committee and we'll get it to you.
Okay.
All right, I do have a report here.
All right, so I just want to, before we get too far, I just want to say, I mean, the capital ordinance is no problem. I'm thinking, is our next meeting in 2 weeks?
June
I forget
13th,
whether
no,
we
this is
skip,
one of those
you skip
odd
a
ones.
week?
Yeah.
All right, I might be able to get it done. You know, I got Memorial Day weekend coming up, I'll see what I can do.
Thanks, Mr. Arnott. I know Chief Wright was very thorough. He put the
Okay.
ordinance numbers and.
Okay,
right there.
I'll take a look and see what I can do.
I'd be okay with 10 miles. Just a thought.
Would more be better or 5 is really good?
5 would increase the amount of opportunity we have, but it also would keep the response time within an acceptable amount of time.
Okay, so 5 it is.
Very good.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, my laws and license report. There are several applications for off-premise 50/50 raffle licenses. The Laws and License Committee recommends the following. The committee recommends the adoption of Resolution 17-115 for the application of 12 off-premise 50/50 raffle licenses to be drawn on the 15th of every month starting October 15, 2017, concluding September 15, 2018 at the Church of St. Anne's, 325 2nd Avenue. The committee also recommends the adoption of Resolution number 17-118 for the application of one off-premise 50/50 raffle license to be drawn on October 12, 2017 at the Westwood on North Avenue in Garwood by the YMCA of Eastern Union County. That's all from my report.
Any comments on the laws and license report? Hearing none, move on to Garwood Senior Citizens Liaison, Councilman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just a recreation?
No,
You said no report.
no report,
I didn't hear, sorry.
sorry.
At our last meeting, the seniors discussed the revaluation that Garwood will undergo. I answered some questions and we discussed the process. And they asked that I relay that we make sure to hire a good firm so that the process goes smoothly and accurately. The seniors are running a trip to Atlantic City Resorts Hotel on June 26th. The bus is leaving at 10 a.m. from the firehouse and returns at 8 p.m. The cost is $25 and you will receive $25 in slot play. Please let me know if you're interested and I can give you the contact info to reserve your spot. Our next meeting is June 1st. That's all from me, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments on the senior report? Hearing none, Library Mayor's Representative, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. On June 6th, the library will be the polling place for the primary election, so make sure you get your voice heard for Democratic and Republican primaries. The building will be open to voters at 6 a.m. and library business will be conducted only within its normal hours of 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Seating will be limited and the children's section will be closed during polling on that day. Registration for the summer reading registration will start June 12th. This year's theme is Build a Better World. On June 13th, the library will present our summer reading kickoff event, Build a Better World's STEM Assembly at Lincoln School for grades K through 5. Logins for summer reading begins on June 19th. Their ongoing programs are the Knitting Club every Monday and Thursday at 10:30, book clubs Monday afternoon and Thursday evening, bilingual knitting class every Tuesday at noon, Kids Craft Tuesday, June 13th at 3 p.m., story time every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., adult chess club every Wednesday at 7, Lego Club Thursday, May 25th and June 8th at 3 p.m., movie time every Friday at 10 a.m., and the Garwood Library is open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 8, Fridays from 9 to 4:30, and Saturdays from 9 to 1. And of course, the library will be closed on Monday, May 29th for Memorial Day. That's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments on the library report? Hearing none. School Board Liaison, Councilman Sarno.
Thanks, Mayor. We don't have a duplicate report because you read one earlier.
Then we have a triplet report. As Council President said something.
Great. But, yeah, triple the report, I mean, I'll just make a quick note of it, it's only a couple lines. We had a joint meeting with Councilwoman Disco, Mayor Lombardo, Superintendent Dr. Quigley, Christine Guerriero, Tracy Rowland, and Sal Fioroli, all the board met. We discussed the latest progress with our redevelopment sites and the relationship between the Board of Ed and Council, and with how we plan to keep an open line of communication as the borough continues to incorporate redevelopment. The underlying message from the meeting is that the concerns of the Board of Ed are ours concerns as well, and that we hope to address them in a united fashion. That's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments?
Just a quick one, thank you for that report. I'm glad we met, and just for the record, Sue Groening from the Board of Education was there too.
I forget it. My bad.
It's okay, there's
That's
a long
why I
list of
didn't announce the
attendees.
names. I knew I'd forget someone.
That's okay.
Pretty much as many as we could have without a quorum, right?
Right, that's correct. Okay, celebration of public events and holidays, Liaison, Council President Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd again like to invite Garwood residents to attend the annual Memorial Day event this year. It will be on Memorial Day, May 29th at noon at the Columbian Club. After a short remembrance ceremony, hot dogs, chips, and soda will be served. This year's speaker will be longtime Garwood resident Gene Payne, who is a Navy veteran of World War II. Mr. Payne was part of the workforce called the Seabees that helped build airstrips in the Pacific. He proudly served from 1941 until 1945 and left the service having achieved the rank of Gunner Mate Second Class, along with many service medals. We're honored to have him as this year's speaker, and thank you to the mayor for organizing that. And that's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments on the celebrations report? Hearing none, Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board representative.
No report, Mayor. Our next meeting is in June.
Thank you. Administrative Review Committee, Councilwoman Cabral.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Historical Committee, Council President Tedesco.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended last night's meeting of the Historical Committee. The main focus of the meeting was preparing for the first ever Historical Committee booth at the upcoming Garwood Rock Street Fair on June 4th. Please stop by our booth and say hello. The committee is excited to also launch the first ever Garwood Rock Hunt. 20 brightly colored rocks will be scattered around town about a week before Garwood Rocks, and if you find one, please bring it over to our booth at the street fair to claim a prize, as well as historical information about the item on your rock, as well as the other rocks that were out there. The rocks will be placed at various public areas throughout the town, but will not necessarily match the name on the rock. For example, the Borough Hall rock will not actually be outside of Borough Hall, but another one might be, such as the Lions Club gazebo or the library. Please limit one rock per family, and that's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments on the report from the Historical Committee? Hearing none. Parking Committee, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you, Mayor. The Parking Committee met on Thursday night, May 18th, to discuss the expanded area of parking enforcement, the future personnel policing parking enforcement, the central business district, and the importance of discussing parking issues and remedies with business owners via the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce. Action points and corresponding 3 ordinance recommendations, which will all set the groundwork for providing a better remedy for parking in the borough. So the first ordinance to be recommended is this. to expand the enforcement area to the following streets. 4th Ave between Cedar and the dead end. 4th Ave between Walnut and Maple. Oak between 4th and 5th. 5th for the 2 blocks pertaining to Garland. And Spruce between East and Maple. Second part of the ordinance that we're going to recommend is establishing the position of, quote, parking enforcement officer, end quote, whose duties in summary would be relegated to policing and enforcement of parking in the borough. Okay, and I'm going to get into points of interest that will supplement this as well, and obviously I will discuss any questions you have. The third ordinance to be recommended is adjusting the salary ordinance to include a separate range for the parking enforcement officer, as previously mentioned, and the chief is recommending a range between $15 and $17 per hour. Okay? Points of interest for these 3 ordinances to be recommended. The signs required to expand the parking area would cost roughly around $3,000 and could take several months to implement given the schedule of the DPW. The parking enforcement officer position would be a part-time position. And note that we're just recommending the passage of the ordinance and not the hiring of the officer at this time. It is to get this on the books specifically. The chief has suggested using a staggered schedule and enforcing at different times of the day. That would lower your cost, but still achieve very similar effectiveness. We are currently working with the CFO to see what our options are in funding this position for the last 4 months of this year. Okay, and the possibility of establishing a special fund to specifically allocate money derived from parking enforcement funds to stay dedicated to parking enforcement. The chief recommends the use of placards. We agree. Instead of stickers, as he thinks it would be easier for residents to utilize them despite the slightly higher cost involved. What we're learning is that these stickers are falling off. They're not, as people are leaving, we're not being able to replace them, and that the placards may be a more effective way. We can obviously discuss any of this as we go forward. If these ordinances do pass over the next several months, we'd recommend using the newsletter and direct mail to ensure all residents and business owners have ample time to comply with the new ordinances. We also discussed meeting with Garland business owners to discuss their challenges with parking and how it affects their business, and we would gauge their thoughts on how to remedy the problem and even discuss bringing in parking meters. We have between 105 and 110 spots that could be metered between our municipal lots, Center Street, North Ave, and South Avenue. We plan to organize this meeting in the upcoming months, starting the earliest being in late June. The last thought I want to leave everyone with is, what are your thoughts concerning giving businesses that are nearby stickers or placards so they can park on our neighboring streets? So we'll start with the ordinances first. What is the general thought of council regarding the ordinances and the expansion?
I just want to comment that this is a part of the meeting where you report, and this is the workshop discussion.
That was-
This is the reporting part.
In all honesty, I think to put the council somewhat on the spot, I think you should email them probably with all that information. They can just digest that whole thing. I think it'd be appropriate to do it, right?
I can do that.
Thank you.
I would suggest that you have the councilman email the information to the administrator clerk and have her send it out so that we avoid having any unlawful email meetings.
Okay. Council will review at the quick fashion.
Sure, I just have a comment, Mayor. It's actually a comment and not to ensue a workshop discussion, but I just want to say I'm very happy to see some comprehensive plan out of the parking committee. And I do have a question about the establishing the position of parking enforcement officer. Obviously that makes sense, but last year with the specials, That was an ordinance, so would that be sort of null and void or not?
In
At least
addition
not, okay, in addition to.
Because that may come down in the future. The point of it is, and this is something to digest when you go through this report that I read, that it took a long time to read, but no big deal. But what the parking enforcement officer does, it's going to be coming in at a lower rate, and his duties are specifically to enforce parking. Whereas specials have a little bit more leeway if we go special class 1 or special class 2. They could do traffic control, they could be walking around Garwood Rocks in the future. That's something that won't be addressed probably in the near future. Maybe it could be. I know you may want one, may want two, but as of right now, I think that's in the background at this point in time, but the parking enforcement officer is something that is.
So it's not to pull the ordinance from last year off the books, it's just to put something in addition to that seems more immediate
Correct.
to us.
Yes.
And I just want to say, I love the placard instead of the sticker idea. You know how I feel about that from 2 years ago? I feel the same way. Placard is way better. Very happy to hear that. That's it.
Any further comments at this time? Officers report, Ms. Ariel.
Municipal Court Administrator LaShawn Dumont, monthly report for April 2017.
Do I have a motion to accept the officers' reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move on to public comment. Anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council, please step to the microphone, state your full name and address.
Russ Graham, 12 Liberty Court. Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you.
Just as a point of clarification, I read the article about the towns that were ordered to do revaluation, and I had recalled that the prerequisite was that any town that hadn't done it for about a period of about 30 years would be on the hit list, and that's how we came on it. And then, as another point, my wife, about 6 years ago, started to commute, 5-6 years ago, and I happen to know the Vice President of Rail Operations from New Jersey Transit. So I asked him about more stops in Garwood, and his concern was parking. If we don't have the parking, we can't get the stops. So one has to occur before the other, and the parking has to be available, not just to residents of Garwood, but that's kind of like a park and ride lot type thing. On a personal note, as I mentioned, my wife is a commuter, and Chief Wright was not appointed as of yet, but not too long ago, my wife came home one night especially upset in her 5-block walk from the train station to our home on Liberty Court. Almost weekly, she's almost hit crossing the street. And this is by the school, there are signs. So the next day I came in and I spoke to one of the dispatchers and I raised my concern. And the dispatcher said that the law was stupid and that people crossing the street should not expect drivers to just stop because there's a law. Now, fortunately, a policeman came in and went on to explain that around 5:15, when she usually comes home, it's a very busy time for the police force, and so they can't just park a vehicle near the school and enforce, and obviously they can't be everywhere in the borough, but that is a traffic route. So with the chief here, I would hope that something can be done. I know other towns use it as a targeted enforcement. They have plainclothes policemen crossing the street all the time and a patrol car half a block down and waving people over for not stopping. I mean, a common problem is my wife will step off the curb, one car will stop, and before she gets across, the other car coming the other way does not stop. So she has the expectation that she can go, and people are oblivious. So it's getting to be a serious concern, and obviously with being the school right there, we have to be concerned about the children as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Stephen Greet, 409 Brookside Place. I would just firstly thank you for passing Resolution 1706, or the ordinance 1706. I think it was commendable and great on your part. In particular, I'd like to thank Mr. Sarno, Councilman Sarno, very much, because I think he took the time to do an evaluation and a self-evaluation to determine what was best for Garwood. as opposed to interests other than himself. So I thank you, and I hold that, I think that's very commendable on your part. With that being said, just a quick question for, I guess, for the council in general. I'm just looking at the rationale and you have the fencing ordinance that was passed. Was it because there's a backlog of variances for a 6-foot fence on a corner lot, or was it just an arbitrary, we decided to increase the size of the fence?
I believe the fence ordinance was an overreach of government. I believe plenty of corner properties without a pool, they do want to replace their fences. They would like the privacy that a 6-foot fence would allow. And after numerous complaints about it, I felt it was our duty to come back.
Oh, so there were numerous complaints?
Yeah.
Oh,
And we also had a lawsuit.
Is that a record?
What?
Numerous complaints, yeah.
Well, should I monitor all my phone calls?
No, I'm just curious.
No. And also, there we did have a lawsuit concerning it.
And that was with a pool in particular, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't believe
And that
that
was one, correct?
residents, correct, but I don't believe, but there's also 6-foot fences on corner properties without pools, if somebody would take a look around. But I also don't believe that it's government's job to over-regulate when somebody simply wants privacy on their property, honestly. That's all it really was, you know? So 6-foot, 4-foot, whatever they would like, as long as it meets the requirement, meets the setbacks, I don't see anything wrong with that.
I do have questions about it, and I will wait till next week at the public hearing for the ordinance to get some more information on it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, and again, just thank you very much. I think that's a great thing for Garwood as far as the redevelopment goes, and I look forward to working with you folks as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that we passed for introduction rather than passing
Right.
it, so, yeah, I just wanted to follow up.
So it's
that-
still in the process.
Exactly, we haven't voted on it for sure.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Al Del Conte at 545 Locust Avenue. I almost forgot again this meeting. It is now over 3 weeks. There has been a tree that has fallen. I don't know what it is, 500 block of Locust Avenue, but here we go. At the end of the street, it's been over 3 weeks. There's been a tree down. And the gentleman that lives on Columbus Avenue in Westfield, this is about the 3rd time that a tree has fallen and from this lot into this gentleman's backyard. Broke his fence, hit his house, ripped his gutter off. And I don't know if anybody is aware of this or not, but on council, it's over 3 weeks. I had spoken to the DPW about it, and they don't even know when they're going to be able to get to it now, and who is going to take it down, because our bucket truck is out of commission. So, I mean, I see on the agenda for tonight, 17-119, it's for the police department, 2 new cars, 2 new vehicles, and I'm sure that's gonna get the rubber stamp like it does every year. I would like to have some of that kind-heartedness. I know our DPW is getting a very new garbage truck soon, but their equipment is half-hearted, in disrepair. I think you guys need to take a walk down there and go through their equipment and see what the bucket truck looks like, what the mason dump truck looks like, what the sweeper looks like. You know, I don't think we would like to have those pieces of equipment on display for Garwood Rocks when it comes up. Thank you.
That'll be in finance.
Okay.
With our capital plans.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm still Bill Nerstead, 320 Hickory. I just read ordinance 17-114 for the first time tonight, so I'm not going to comment on yes or no, but I think through this whole affordable housing thing, where it's become such a legislative and judicial battle, that we've kind of forgotten what how this whole thing got started. I'd just like council to remember, this is a Mount Laurel decision. It's called, it came out of the fact that municipalities throughout the state, but Mount Laurel was the one that went all the way to the Supreme Court, actually prevented people from let me rephrase that. They only allowed single-family homes on large lots. I'm sure you've all heard the term large lot zoning. And what that did was it effectively banned people who lived in that community from being able to purchase housing. They reached retirement age, or they reached whatever difficulty or whatever happened in their life. They perhaps wanted to sell their house because land values were going up. They couldn't afford taxes perhaps. They couldn't afford to buy another house in that community in which they lived because the municipality banned apartments. Couldn't build an apartment complex in Mount Laurel. And so when we all look about putting 17-114, and you look about asking for moratorium, I really don't agree with that. I think those of us with children, those of us who, with parents who are still alive, perhaps not wanting to give up a home or to get something else, putting in a moratorium on the provision of affordable housing. Affordable housing has this bad connotation, but I'm sorry, it's the family of four that makes $50,000 a year. It's this college student who goes out and gets his first job, his or her first job, that's making $30,000 a year. You know, we all, I started out making $12,000 a year. I know everybody else started out at, but I think this concept of affordable housing has unfortunately got a very bad connotation. And I guess I'm saying I haven't read enough about this to say, to recommend yes or no. I'm going to change that, and I'm going to ask that you don't support that. Because municipalities need to provide affordable housing for people who cannot afford large homes, people who need to live in an apartment, people who need to get their first place when they move out from their parents. So I think this is a very short-sighted resolution. It's probably put forward by the big municipalities, I would assume. That looks like the language is coming from. And I really would ask this council not to support that resolution. I don't think it's in the best interest of Garwood or our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hairston.
Good evening, Mayor Lombardo, ladies and gentlemen of the council. This is matter for 325 Willow Avenue. Although I'm not too happy about the outcome of the ordinance, but at least I got one statement from Councilwoman Tedesco that was so astute that in comparing Westfield and Cranston, Garwood offers good value, and I can't argue that. That's why I moved here. I mean, if that small town, big heart slogan never gets beat to death, maybe we should think about replacing it with something like that term. But I do appreciate you bringing it out. What I'm saying. I also appreciate the council pushing for unanimous consent for Chief Wright's safety equipment that he's going to be buying. It shows good support for our new chief, so that's a good idea. And just one more time, I mean, my 16 questions were never answered. They were promised to be answered. They were never answered. You know, it just keeps moving forward here. Somehow, it doesn't get answered. Can you give me an idea when I'll see something?
I told you 2 meetings ago, by the end of the month. Thank you. Thank you. That's correct. Anyone else? Move on to consent agenda. Do you have a motion to adopt the consent agenda? So moved.
Second. Joe?
Yes.
And a second, I'm sorry. Mark? Eileen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So? Roll call, Ms. Ariano?
Councilman Rubenstadt? Aye. Councilman Lucro?
Yes.
Councilman Lanzaro?
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli? Aye. Councilman Sarno?
Aye.
Council President Tedesco?
Aye.
Ms. Ariano, do you have any resolutions?
Yes. Resolution 17-121, be it resolved by the Council of the Borough of Garwood and the County of Union, State of New Jersey, that the mayor, Mr. Kurt B., are hereby authorized to sign the 2017 Infrastructure and Municipal Aid Grant with the County of Union for a grant amount of $55,000.
Do you have a motion to adopt?
I'll make that motion now.
It's not.
It's not on there.
It's not on there.
You just decided that tonight, that's why I read it.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Ms. Ariano?
Let's keep the lead. Do you have a second?
Yes.
Roll call, Ms. Ariano.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Council President Disco.
Aye.
Have one more.
Yes, Ms. Ariella, go ahead.
Resolution 17-122. Again, Councilwoman, this is not in front of you. You discussed it this evening, and I had to create it after you decided, so that's why you don't have it in front of you. I'll read it as follows. Whereas the Council of the Borough of Garwood has determined that there exists a need for professional services for the preparation of a redevelopment plan for the south side of South Avenue redevelopment project Phase 2. And whereas the said governing body has determined that such services are professional services as defined in local public contract law of the state of New Jersey. And whereas the local public contract law requires that a notice stating the nature, duration, services, and amount of each contract awarded as professional service contract be printed once in the official newspaper of the municipality. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Borough of Garwood that the mayor and borough clerk be and are hereby authorized and directed to execute an agreement with Phillips, Price, and Rigel Planning and Real Estate Consultants from Hoboken, New Jersey, for the provision of a provision as stated in paragraph 1, that said contractor shall receive fees not to exceed $8,000 as indicated in the proposal dated May 12, 2017, and this contract is awarded without competitive bidding as professional services pursuant to local public contracts law. And the borough clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to maintain this resolution and the professional services contract on file and available for public inspection in the office of the borough clerk. And the borough clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish a copy of this notice as required by law.
Have a motion to adopt this resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Ariella.
Discussion.
Yes, you can have discussion.
Go ahead.
I do not plan to support this. I think that going to an outside firm will produce an environment where you have two engineers going at two different parts. While I do feel it's a professional organization that is being recommended in the ordinance, I don't support it. I feel that we should be sticking with Harbor and we should be going with Mike Estrella as being the planner for this particular phase. I think it's in the best interest of the borough to continue that way. We have a short time period to do this, and I feel that they have the most knowledge of this town, and they have the most knowledge of what's been happening with this project over the last 3 to 4 years. So for that reason, I will not be supporting it.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Roll call, Ms. Ariella.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kukrow.
Abstain.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
No.
Councilman Sarno.
No.
Council President Disco.
Aye.
Bob?
Wound up 3-2, right? 3-2 with an abstention?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
that's sufficient to pass the resolution.
Thank you. Anyone, any other, Ms. Ariella?
No, Mayor.
Okay, other new business, we have a proclamation, Mayor's Wellness Campaign. Just a short statement. This is a start of one of many Green Team initiatives. More activities will be announced in the near future. Payment of claims, Ms. Ariella.
Be it resolved that the following claims as approved be and the same are hereby ordered, paid, when properly signed and verified. And the payment of payrolls as listed hereby confirmed and ratified.
We have a motion to adopt payment of claims.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Ariella.
Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Aye.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Council President Disco.
Aye.
Ms. Ariella.
Mayor, before we go to executive session, just because it came up in public comment earlier, 2 items I think deserve some follow-up. Mrs. McCarrick brought up property maintenance. I want you to know that that's under review of the Laws and License Committee, looking at that heavily, more so than ever. And also New Jersey Transit came up a couple times. The council has had representatives speak with New Jersey Transit. We even had a sit-down meeting 2 years ago with them over in the conference room, and so we have been in touch with them, and we are advocating for more stops. Obviously, it's a challenge, but we are advocating for that.
Thank you.
Resolution 17-123. Closed session resolution authorizing an executive session for the purpose of discussing contract negotiations relating to shared services for construction code enforcement. And 2, potential litigation concerning water infiltration at the Michael R. Piccoli Recreation Building at the Garwood Sports and Recreation Complex and matters attorney-client privilege relating to the above and in accordance with NJSA 10-4 closed session. Meetings open to public, the exclusion of public subject of matter, whereas it is necessary for the mayor and council of the borough to conduct an executive session and close to the public in order to discuss the above listed matters. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the borough hereby moves to go into executive session in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act for the purpose of discussing the subject stated above, and be it further resolved that the matters discussed in and minutes of the closed session shall be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality no longer exists. And after we come back out of the executive session, actions may be taken.
Do I have a motion for the executive session?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, Ms. Ariane.
Councilwoman Lewinsky. Aye. Councilman Bluer. Yes. Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petroselli. Aye. Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Council President Tedesco.
Aye.
Nobody wants. You don't have a subcommittee. Not paid to do this. He's got nothing to do with that.
Oh, I know, I never.
It's not his job.
I'm sure Chief Wright has it on his computer.
Okay, I am now ready.
Within 30 seconds. We have no business to attend to. At the regular meeting of the mayor and council held on Tuesday, June 13, 2017, in council chambers at 7:15 p.m. Workshop session to start at 7 p.m. There will be a public hearing in council chambers, ordinance number 17-07 and 17-08 on Tuesday, June 13, 2017, at 7:15 p.m. or sooner thereafter. We have a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.